Okay, great. So we're going to go with this. So it's good to see everyone. As I mentioned, I'm Christine. I'm the Director of Outreach at AARP New Jersey. Katie York is not able to join us today, so I'm just stealing her Zoom link, and I will play both roles. So basically in our session today, we're going to talk about a few things. I'm going to provide a very brief overview of the AARP network, share a little bit of a snapshot of what that network looks like today. And then I really want to share some learnings and tools and trends in the network. And then I've got some sneak peek resources for us to take a look at as well. So just really quickly for folks who aren't familiar, AARP is the US affiliate to the World Health Organization's global network of age-friendly states and communities. And what this network is it's a group of communities that have committed, and local electeds, local leaders have committed to a 5-year process of continuous improvement to make their communities more age-friendly. This just gives you a quick overview of what that process looks like. It starts with enrollment, then you go into community listening, needs assessment, then you develop an action plan, implement the action plan, and then you can re-up for another 5-year cycle. So that's just a very, very high level overview. So here across the country, we have about 100 million people that live in a community that's part of the network of age-friendly states and communities. When I finished this deck, we were at 699 communities across the country. I was hoping we would get to that 700 mark by today, so I have a nice round number to share with folks. And that also does include several states. So we have New York, Massachusetts, Colorado, Florida, Michigan, Maine, New Jersey, California, and Minnesota, as well as the Virgin Islands that are also enrolled in the network. When we look at our communities in New Jersey, I wanted to take a look at some of the trends that we are seeing. And here we go. So our communities are 18 plus 2 counties. So we have Bergen and Somerset are our 2 counties. And what all of our communities are doing is they're building an action plan based on 8 different domains. We call those the 8 domains of livability. And it covers built environment, so things you see here like transportation and housing, but also those social parts of a community that are so important, like social participation, respect, and inclusion. And I actually was able to look at our communities in New Jersey and just pull some trend data that I thought was really interesting. So out of communities who have submitted an action plan, these are some of the key themes that I see across the domains in terms of what communities are focused on. So in transportation, 100% of our communities that have submitted action plans all have a component that's focused on helping to build an individual's transportation knowledge and skills. There's also a really strong focus with 66% of communities saying they're focused on infrastructure. So improving infrastructure, and then also increasing availability of private transit ride sharing as part of that infrastructure. Some other key trends for me that stood out when I look at the outdoor spaces, the majority of our communities are really focused on placemaking and how do you help enhance those spaces. In the housing space, I really thought this was interesting. 100% of our communities with action plans related to housing are focused on increasing access. So increasing access to services, supports, and then also increasing access touched on increasing the number of available units. And then in the housing space, also information. And I know so many of our communities focus on this. How do we make sure that our older adults know where they can get the information and the resources to connect to housing supports? So the way I kind of did this is for each of these domains, the bottom tier was sort of the most people said this, and then it sort of tees up. But these are really, when we look at our New Jersey communities, some of the major trends that are coming through. Okay. So in terms of resources, a few I wanted to share, and for folks who are in the network, you might be using some of these already, but some of them are are a little newer. So we have a really great series of training videos for community representatives. So if you are in the network, we have these modular video trainings on different areas of the 8 domains and on different areas of that first slide where I showed that cycle, right? Like action plan development, doing a needs assessment. And these are great because you can just download them from our site. They're free to use. You can use them as part of your age-friendly initiative. You can share them with local leaders and electeds. We also have on our website, which is aarp.org/livable, a community survey template. And I know several folks have utilized this. We have a downloadable copy, but we also have an electronic version. And so if you are a member of the network, you actually work with AARP's research team to create a digital survey unique to your community that you can then share out to do that needs assessment collection piece. And then we give you all the data. So you get like a summary, but then you get the data to really kind of dig into. And as a data geek, I always love that piece. We also have our portal, our Network of Age-Friendly States portal. This is only available to folks that are in the network. And it's a great way to connect, not just across New Jersey, but across the country. So every single community, there's at least one representative from that community who's part of the portal. And you can go in and you can post a question and say you're thinking, you know what, I'd love to see some innovative partnerships between, public and private institutions around transportation. You can ask your question in the portal, you can give it specific tags, and then every single community in the network, if the person who's the contact has either said, hey, this is an area I'm interested in and identified with that tag, they'll see your comment. So it's a great way to build that dialogue and that sharing across our network. We can also post events in there. There's a library of resources. So it's really a one-stop hub. And it was developed to kind of, I'll say, replace and I think augment the Facebook page we used to have. This just has a lot more resources for folks. So those are some that are very specific to communities that are in the network, but I always like to highlight some that are available to everyone. I mean, and our website really does have a plethora of information, but our Community Challenge Grant, I know the folks in Garfield, Jeff, Marlene, Shannon, and Challenge Grant recipients. This is a national program where we give out every year millions of dollars to community groups to do quick action projects that could lead to long-term change. So in 2022, we gave out about $3.4 million to 260 quick action projects across the country. And that cycle usually opens the end of February or that first week in March, just in terms of timing. We also have a fantastic national newsletter that you can subscribe to. It comes out weekly. And again, this really shows information and inspiration from all across the country. So it's a great way to see some best practices. We also have what's called AARP Map. And this is where you can actually go in and drill down on communities that are in the network. You can really see what are their action plan items. Have they gotten a challenge grant? It's sort of like a tableau for our communities that are in the network. And then our Livable library, which is on the top right here, really does have just, a plethora of free community toolkits, workshops, guides around all 8 domains of livability that are available to everyone. And so I highly encourage you, even if you're not part of the network, check out what we have at aarp.org/livable and /livable library. There's really a ton of information there. And then this is a little bit, I just wanted to share sort of a sneak peek of what's coming down the pike. Starting in the top left, folks might already be aware of this. So next week is actually our free Housing for People of All Ages virtual summit. We host a national summit every year, usually around a specific theme, housing for this year. You can register at aarp.org/livable2022. It's a 2-day event, and we're really going to be highlighting and showcasing innovative pilot projects, ideas around housing for all and for and at different models of scale. So we talk a lot about how do you make sure that you have options when it comes to affordable housing, you know, whether that's a small accessory dwelling unit or a larger complex. So please feel free to join us. We also have a new disaster resiliency toolkit that launched earlier this year. This was a partnership with FEMA. And this, I think for our state, right, where we know we unfortunately, you know, have seen these 100-year storms, it seems like every 5 or 6 years now, this toolkit about how you help prepare residents for disaster does take a lens of supporting older adults. So I think it's a great new resource that's available. And again, this was a multi-year partnership we had with FEMA to get that launched. And then coming soon, which I'm really excited about, right after our conference next week, AARP is launching 2 new resources around missing middle housing, which is this idea of, you know, affordable housing that is sort of not a giant high rise, maybe it's an ADU, a duplex. So, you know, that size of scale that fits into neighborhoods and communities. So this is going to be a 28-page publication similar to our ABCs of ADUs guide, if folks are familiar with that, that'll be released the end of this month. And along with that, we're going to also release a sample ordinance that communities can use around creating missing middle housing opportunities. And then the third coming soon, and this should launch, I want to say the end of February, early March, because we're trying to tie it to the challenge grant. So many of our challenge grant projects come in around community gardening that we realize there's really a need for sort of some how-to skills and toolkits for communities on how you create community gardens. We have several examples in New Jersey, and I'm excited to say that New Jersey is actually on the pilot group that's developing this guide that will launch in tandem with the challenge grant next year. Again, it'll be a free toolkit that you can use as a way to say, hey, here's like the ABCs of starting up a community garden. So that is my rapid fire, what's new with the network, but would love to just take our last couple minutes here to have a conversation, see if anyone has questions I can answer. I see Miss Williams, you have a question.
Hi, yes, ma'am. My question pertains to communities being made livable for those of us with vision loss. Does this initiative incorporate things such as accessible pedestrian signals or signals that tell you when to cross the street when it's safe?
Yeah, I think that would definitely fall under the transportation domain. And we have communities that focus a lot on bike pedestrian safety issues and crosswalks in particular. So each county each community develops their plan based specifically on the needs of the community members, the listening survey that they did. And I think that's a really important element that across all these domains, when we talk about accessibility, are we really making sure that what we're creating works for people of all abilities and all ages? What I say a lot of times too, right, is like, yes, we come from this with the aging lens, but if you put in curb cuts, that's going to help somebody in a wheelchair, that's going to help a mom with a stroller. So, right. All of these aspects of, especially the built environment and infrastructure, if we think about them from a lens of how do we make them as inclusive and accessible for everyone, then we know we're going to meet the needs of everybody, whether they're 8, whether they're 80.
Great, thank you.
You got it. What else? Okay. So I know it's a lot of information about sort of AARP's resources and supports. So I do think if there's sort of the one takeaway, I would say all this information can be found at our aarp.org/livable, which I will pop into the chat. Have it. And yeah, so if anything comes up, you can also feel free to reach out to me directly. I will put my email in here as well. Newman. And again, I know it says Katie York, but I'm Christine. So there's my email if anybody has any follow-up questions. And it looks like we're getting brought back in about 30 seconds. So we have good timing here. Great. All right. Well, it's good seeing everyone. Nice meeting the people I'm not familiar with, but thanks for joining us. Oh, and Jeff, I was going to reach out to you about this disaster resiliency toolkit because I thought that was something maybe we should talk about.
Yeah, that just caught my eye. Funny you say that. So cool. Yeah, definitely call me after.
I will. We'll follow up. Great. All right, everyone. Enjoy your rest of your day.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You got it.